way.
Give them the
We
benefit
can't
of the doubt.
Combination of the city and the owners.
Well, there's a bunch of
Ready to go
easements got
whenever you
recorded
are.
there and not recorded and land swapped hands
I
and
know.
sold and.
And so I kind of told her, leave it alone. It's there, we'll work around it, you know.
Yeah, we'll see.
What else are you gonna do? I
Yeah.
mean, are you gonna do something with it?
Typically, we just say, hey, you know, if. Cause it's on her property, but the neighbors use it, right?
Yeah,
Is she coming off the same one?
no.
Oh, it's a different one? Well, we'll figure it out. We'll get there.
Yeah.
We'll cross that
When I
bridge.
talked to Andy, we just decided that, I mean, technically, this shouldn't have been allowed to build what they did.
Right,
But the problem, well, we kind of.
not recording it.
The
think it is,
problem
actually,
The problem
so.
is that.
Yep, yeah, who's here and yep. Oh,
Where's the date? Oh, there it is. Okay.
okay, we're recording. We're recording.
All right. So welcome to the Cottonwood Heights Architectural Review Commission meeting for May 25th, 2023.
That's perfect. And then
Good.
if you're ready, you can just lead us right into the business items. If you want to just
Okay.
read in the project number and then kind of the description, and then I'll take it from there.
Okay, so the project business items we have today, project SPL 23001. Review and potential action on certificate of design compliance request by Sandy Rudolph for a detached garage at 1399 East Fort Union Boulevard.
Perfect. You did excellent. Good work. So I'm going to share my screen and let me see if I can get everything cooperating here. I just have a few slides to kind of walk us through just the same information that was in the staff reports, but just put it up on the screen. Keep in mind that the colors get warped on this screen, kind of on both of them. So just there's a margin of error when we show the materials boards digitally, and
So that's green.
that's what
TV looks a little.
this one looks a little better. So this is the subject property, 1399 East Fort Union Boulevard. We are looking at a certificate of design compliance request for a detached garage project. Staff's recommending approval with 2 conditions. We'll get into that. This is an aerial just showing the context of the property. It's right across from the Union Park commercial area. Right here, we have like the World Market, Deseret Book, and then over here we have like the Panda Express, getting into Target over here, and then the subject property is right across the street. So in that kind of busy, active part of the city. It's zone neighborhood commercial, but it's also in our gateway overlay district, which is why the project is here tonight. Just a little bit of history. So the project or the property is used as an insurance office and as a private residence. This is allowed in the neighborhood commercial zone, so that use is compliant. In 2021, the ARC reviewed and approved the exterior remodel of the building. So that may look familiar to some of the commission who was serving at that time. And then this project, this remodel actually went on to receive the city's landscape beautification award for that year for the commercial business category. So it got some recognition in the city news for that as well. What we're looking at today is a detached garage project for a 30-foot by 64-foot detached garage in the rear yard. As part of this project, the applicant is also planning to do some updated fencing on the west side property line and the rear property line using wood and galvanized metal fencing between 6 feet and 10 feet high. And then they're also planning to update a portion of the kind of the aging lawn in the backyard with some raised planter beds and some Swedish columnar aspen trees. This picture here shows just kind of the general site plan. So we see the existing primary building here at the foreground of the site plan here, and then the proposed detached garage here in the rear. The proposed fencing would run along, let's see if my mouse catches up with me, would run along this property line and then the rear property line here. There's an existing fence over here on the east side that's already there and working well. And then the area of the lawn that the applicant is proposing to remove is back here on that north property line, and proposing to add those trees in and replace it with some raised beds. And we'll get into some of the design of that a little bit more here. This page shows the materials that are proposed for the detached garage next to the existing building and the rendering for the detached garage. So we see that they're proposing to utilize a metal material, panel block plus. The applicant can probably answer maybe questions about that if you have them, but proposing to use the onyx color and the cream color, which would look kind of like this rendering here in a scheme that's compatible by staff's finding with that main building. And then just to show you kind of the other elements here, I have the plan pulled up again here as reference, and then she's wanting to do those raised beds along that back property line. The Swedish columnar aspen is pictured here, and then that's the example of the mixed material fencing that she would like to use. So those are the high level points of the proposal. Looking at the analysis side of it, we looked at it for compliance with city code and also with the design guidelines. It looks like Scott Peters is actually calling. Do you want to give him a call and just see if? Okay, thank you. Just want to make sure everything's good. We look at it for compliance with city code for just the basic development standards like setbacks, height, lot coverage. And then we also look at it for compliance with the design guidelines, which gets more into your work. So to briefly summarize just the city code half of it, we find the project to be fully compliant with the setbacks, the height requirements, lot coverages, allowances, fencing height, landscaping requirements. We don't have any recommended conditions there. Looking more into and then here I just have kind of a summary of that if you had any questions on those specific metrics, but we don't need to
Well,
go through them.
maybe along those lines.
Sure.
What's the purpose of the garage?
Yeah, she is proposing to use it for personal storage related to the residence, which is allowed in that zone.
Okay, so it's not for 3, 4, 5 cars. It's just
I believe not, but the
a few
applicant
cars and then
could-
storage.
Just our own cars.
sounds like just 2 cars. Yeah.
Yeah, well, our own cars. He's got one, I've got 3.
Okay.
Yeah. So
It's a
Yeah.
personal
That's all
storage,
personal.
not for like a business activity.
Okay,
Okay, looking here at the design guidelines, I summarized these in the packet, but didn't put them fully in the slides just for brevity. We can definitely go through them line by line, but the overview here is that the design guidelines are largely written for new development for like a whole new building and site. But if we look at the guidelines that are relevant to a smaller project scope, this project does meet them. So it's not a project where they're redeveloping the whole site. They're not changing the access or the public entry into the site. It's just that that rear portion that really isn't visible from Fort Union, so it's pretty minor. But we found that it complies with the design guidelines, which are relevant to a more minor scope. The only conditions we're recommending are that 5 new trees be planted. The applicant has proposed to remove 6 trees as part of the construction, was originally proposing 3 as a replacement. We are recommending a replacement of 5, just feeling that's reasonable with the amount of space that's left. And then we're also recommending that some evergreen plant material be used. That is a design guideline, that it should be a mix of deciduous and evergreen. The proposed tree species is deciduous, so we just included a recommendation that's whether it's a shrub or tree counting toward that minimum, some evergreen material be used. And that's really our recommendation. I have those recommendations summarized again here, have the model motions for approval or denial whenever you're ready. But what questions maybe do you guys have about the proposal? And we can bring up the applicant if you'd like, because applicants can always speak better to their own projects than I can.
Yeah, I don't know that, I mean, it's kind of an accessory building in the back.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, we looked actually at the grading too. I know I mentioned that it isn't really visible from Fort Union too much. The grading slopes backwards, so the road sits higher than where this is going. So not only is the garage, it's only, I think, 20 feet 4 inches is what it's spec'd at. A building can be up to 35 feet in that zone. So not only is it significantly lower than what's allowed, it's also beneath grade.
Right.
So we feel like it's a very minor addition and find that it meets the guidelines. I think it'll be a good addition to the property, but obviously want to answer any questions that you guys have about the project.
And the only comment I have is architecturally, you know, it's not very residential, you know, in material.
Sure.
And of course, it's such a weird stretch. I wish somebody could wipe it all out and develop a great urban development, you know, in that.
Well, it is
It won't happen for the next 20 years.
Yeah.
it is
It's not going anywhere.
Not just, you know what I mean? Everybody has.
we think
That's
you've done a great job with the property and
Yeah.
it looks
No,
great.
you-
It
you
is.
have-
It is a commercial zone. It's the neighborhood commercial zone. So
Yeah.
it's not a residential zone.
Yeah,
But that zone does allow you to have a mixed use building where you have a residential component.
Mhm.
So
but this is a stretch where the city could really use an urban image and development, but we talked about that in the past and that probably never happened. Yeah, I mean, that's the only thing is like, say, the building doesn't quite have the same residential feel to it, like the existing house or somewhere else.
I know one thing that the applicant was looking into was the possibility of using some of that wood material on the detached garage if it was feasible. I think it depends on how it would be attached and if it would meet building code, but that was one idea I know the applicant mentioned, so.
I do think certainly if it had any sort of street presence,
Yeah.
it's a different conversation,
Yeah.
but the curb appeal is so good. This sits so much lower, you're
Yeah.
really not gonna see it and it's, you
No.
know,
No, and that's not coming, I mean, it is true, nobody's gonna see it, and,
Except for them, they're gonna see it
Yeah.
every day,
Yeah.
right?
I tried to match it as close as, sorry, I guess I'm overstepping my bounds.
no, come on, you're an applicant.
I mean, I tried to match it as close as I could to the look of the existing building as much as I could. Also, and you also have to look at the cost overall portion of it. You know, as much if I did a stick frame type thing, it's quite a bit more than what these would be. And again, it's just for personally zoning. I mean, I don't need the whole upstairs is my office that I use, and then we live in the basement on it. And so the other reason that I kind of am doing this as well, which Sam knows, is I have a little bit of an issue with people coming over the wall from that commercial building next door. And like 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago now, I had somebody come over. Luckily, I've got cameras everywhere and it scared the crap out of them. But they came over the wall and it wasn't just looking to try to cut through, is they were going toward the back of my property where our cars are and where I've got a shed right now.
It's a security issue.
It's a security issue. So that's why I was also, and not only doing that, but also looking at possibly raising that fence. One of these days, my dog's gonna be out there. Yeah. So, anyway, it's an issue, and like I said, I'm trying to match it as close as I can to the look of the house. The only thing that I may do a little bit different is I'll probably put the black garage doors on there to match it a little bit more closely. To the house.
What you have here, I think that would
Yeah.
probably be a good element.
So they're, I mean, they're a lot more expensive to do that, but that's one thing I am looking at doing. So, and then on the garage doors as well,
Sorry.
what I'm kind of thinking about doing is actually putting some faux windows like I've got on the front garage door. And of course, I want to do faux because security, I don't want anybody going into it, which is the whole reason I've got the windows also up higher in the building, so people can't actually go through the windows.
Yeah,
Because it's an issue.
there is actually a design guideline that relates to like security and maintenance of a property, so. One of our findings was that we think this project does meet that intent to provide greater security of the property and just maintain it in good standing, but. What do you guys think about, do you have any feedback on the conditions we've recommended? Do you feel like those are good, or do you have edits to those? No changes?
Just so you know, I already bought 3 of those trees, those evergreen trees that are cedar.
Oh, okay,
So I actually bought 3 of those because they were not gonna be available.
okay.
All these pots and trees and everything. It looks like it's forest right now.
Yeah,
I found some, actually, I found some really cool, they call them, wood cedar. They're really unique. I love unique plants, but it's called a whipcord western red cedar. So basically, it looks like a Bob Marley hair. It's cool. See, look at this. Isn't that cool? It's got like,
Okay.
it's like,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, so a lot more evergreens and things like that.
Yeah, so that
Not
can
only
help
the plants.
count toward that
Yeah.
requirement for evergreen
that's
tree.
in the back too.
All in the backyard,
All in
yeah.
the backyard.
Yeah.
So staff, we see this really quite minor, and it's all just, you know, kind of an extension of the work that they've done previously to revitalize this kind of dated home along this corridor where the curb appeal is much better.
Yeah.
It's been recognized. That landscape award is there's only one commercial property every year that wins it, and that one has
Yeah.
won it. So we see this as a good extension, you know, more reinvestment in that area.
Do you have issue with the conditions that they've recommended?
No, actually,
As far as the landscaping?
I've already exceeded what she put in there. Clear my backyard right now.
Yeah, it sounds like in the time since this was written, you've procured some extra trees.
Extra,
So-
extra plants, yeah, so.
Any feedback from you, Zara? No. Okay, just wanted to make sure you had a chance. Well, I have the model motions up if we're ready. It's totally up to you guys, but it sounds like there's some consensus across the commission with this being a pretty minor one. So anyone who would like to make a motion, just a reminder, we need a motion and we need a second, and then we could just do a roll call across the 3 of you.
Procedurally, it's a 5-member commission typically, so it has to be unanimous vote in any way for the vote to
Do
carry.
you have issue with doing the black doors? Like,
No,
would you
not
be
at
okay
all.
if we put that as a condition
Not at all,
too?
actually, I've already talked to them about the price. It cost me about $1,500 per door more, but I actually already decided that's what I wanted to do.
So whoever,
After I gave her the information.
Are you
So
all okay
whoever-
with that too? The black doors?
Yeah.
So we know that it's.
whoever makes the motion, if that's something you want to add, if you agree with the 2 conditions we've included,
Mhm.
you can word your motion as I move to issue certificate of design compliance subject to the conditions in the staff report, and then you can add that on top if that's something you'd like to do.
Well, I can make a motion. I move that we approve it with the staff recommendations. With the addition of the garage doors in the black. To make some accent. But otherwise, just following your recommendation on it.
Great, we've got a motion and then a second from anybody.
Second.
Well, are you second it, Scott?
Agree.
Motion and a second, and then roll call. Commissioner Valentino,
Yeah.
Sure.
I,
Kovac,
Yes. Aye.
Commissioner Hasani Ford.
You can vote, Scott, if you
I'm
want.
not gonna vote because I didn't hear the discussion.
Yeah, that's okay.
So then I'll just note for the minutes, motion passes unanimously. Whoever would like to move us through our agenda, our acting chair here or our chair onto item 3, which is the consent agenda for the minutes approval. Feel free to move us there if you're ready.
Just read that again.
You can summarize it if you'd like. So
yeah,
it's
just read it.
it's basically just saying, you know, the minutes
How about-
from.
How about I make a
Or you
motion?
can just do it.
Yeah, yeah, great.
I move that we approve the consent agenda based on the description outlined on the agenda, wait.
Yes.
I move that we approve the minutes for the May 25th, 2023 meeting based on the process described in 3.1 on the agenda.
A motion in a second. Do you normally roll call the minutes? I can't remember. Sure, okay,
Roll call.
you go ahead.
I made a motion.
Okay,
She,
So then do you want to do the roll call, Sarah?
Needs to
Through
do
the
the roll call.
commissioners?
Say all in favor and then everyone can say aye.
yeah,
All in favor?
I,
Aye.
And then opposed to any?
we should know this after.
No, not opposed. I think you're better at doing these than I am. Okay,
Now you do technically need a motion and a second.
so I move that we adjourn the meeting. We need a second.
Second.
No, you can't. You
Oh, I
have
can't.
chair.
Oh, my
It has
bad.
to be
Okay.
someone else.
Oh, I said that.
Okay,
Now you call the vote.
say
All in favor?
perfect.
Aye.
okay.
Unanimous.
Okay, meeting's adjourned. You guys did great.
Thank you.
Thanks for
I need to read up on my Robert.